calling you a radical. I should have did this a long time ago. This is where I've done all my historic work. This University of General, the historic Stewart Library at Weber State University. And I want to talk, why is there not a statue of FAWN McKay Brodie right here? FAWN McKay Brodie, the greatest female writer in 100 since Harriet Beecher Stowe. Why is there not a statue of her? That's Thomas Jefferson's biography, the greatest, I mean, incredible. Why? She was a female professor here at 19 years old at Weber State. The female dean of history at UCLA. She wrote Jefferson's biography. By the way, Bernard DeVoto's from here too. That's Mark Twain's publicist. You know, the whole thing. I mean, Pulitzer Prize across the wide Missouri. But Edward Abbey, who I drank with right there by where the pond is now, his second or third wife died of cancer from Kaysville, as related to my ex-wife. I knew him when I was a kid. He was here all the time. So let's talk about the history. The ROTC professor that was in the classroom right there, I used to see him when I was going here when I was a kid. Is that D.B. Cooper? Oh, hell yes. Not my words. His own son and grandson's freaking words. It's pretty undocumented that he did his work in there. Melvin Dumar forged Howard Hughes' will in there. I won't stop there. It goes on and on and on and on and on. The historic, the great avant-garde, the great activists, the great research. Like I said, Bernard DeVoto grew up in Ogden. He went to the U, you know, the dean, but the poetry written from the trenches in France. Oh, that's him right here. FAWN McKay Brodie hypothesized that Jefferson had African-American children, including Jesse Helms, all over long before there was any, I mean, clear back in the 50s. Female professor in Utah at 19 years old. I want you to think about that. The dean of history at UCLA, she taught here. The campus was on 25th Street then, but this famous library, I said, Mark Hoffman did all the forging of the will, had a key to special collection. Yeah, you don't know who Mark Hoffman is? By the way, his cellmate's Lafferty. I mean, I could write a book just on the infamous freaking criminals, you know, but the research, no, it's just me. There used to be tons of them in here, like doing the work that I do. I mean, why is there not a statue of her? Why? Because she wrote No Man Knows My History. Even the Mormon Church is backtracked. And the Mormon Church, because I used to be on their committee. And I used to say, why are you denying your socialistic roots? The Hunsaker Mill? My grandfather is Abraham Hunsaker IV. Abraham Hunsaker's first who found the gold at Sutter's Mill. Yeah, the Mormon Battalion guy walked up at Monterey, the old Pacific capital. Yeah, that's him. They didn't believe in heroin. They practiced communism. Communism for 100 years. Now Mike Lee says, I'm the guy. When Mike Lee, right here on this campus, I interviewed him, he got $600,000 in the bank bailout. That's right. Right there, you know, cut food stamps, you need to pull up your food stamp. That's him. That's him. That's the scumbag. He got $600,000. His house foreclosed while he's sitting in fucking United States Senator. Think about that. These phonies. BYU teaches free market fair. They were communists. They were 100 Brigham City, St. George, all of it. 100% redistribution of wealth. 100%. Communism, communism. They practice it in a true sense. Vladimir Lenin, give them enough Catholic rope, they'll hang themselves. Mormons were communists. Mormons were. So she writes the book that he had 47 wives. She goes back and does all. I mean, she would historical work. They excommunicated her. She died of cancer, by the way. She died. Let me think. I know when she died. Right after John Lennon was killed. She died. I remember the day she died because I was living over on Brinker. My young girlfriend. We were young. 1980, January 10th. She died of cancer. Why is there not a statue of the greatest female writer in 150 years? Female professor. Think about it in that era. A female professor. We would say a female dean of history. Think about that in that era. I want you to think about that. I mean, where is the statue? It's a disgrace to this university. It's a disgrace to this county. It's a disgrace to Mormon heritage. It's a disgrace to the reality. By the way, until you fucking learn this, YouTube is literature. And literature, I will quote the dean of literature at San Francisco University as she protested at Livermore with me when I was dying of cancer. After Fukushima. I've done all my historic work. This is the University of General Electric. Wattis built the reactors at Fukushima, Japan, right here. This university. Yeah, they're from Ogden. This school. I'll quote her. Kevin, I make my students watch your YouTube videos. I says, oh, you poor students. I guess they know how to say the word fuck, huh? Yeah. She says, she says, you know why? I says, I'll answer before you even say it. She says, why? I says, intimacy. How did you know that? Because that's what literature lacks anymore. We don't even teach it here. Dr. Burroughs up here, he did his PhD on Devoto. Wow, across the wide Missouri on Balco, on chemo. By the way, I'm part Shoshone. I mean, Jim Bridger, Jedidiah Smith, Revenant the movies based on their journals. Oh, they lived here. All roads. Right here, right here. What they've done to history. Why is there not a statue of her? Why? You ideologues freaking deny history. I started this YouTube site with an argument with another professor as I burned my PhD in protest of the school business. You can look it up. You got a professor here tonight, Chinese oligarch, says, do not go see the Dalai Lama. Look it up. Made worldwide news. We're the #1 school business in the country. 9 years in a row. Second with Wharton, Hamiltonians. They don't even hit the board anymore. For the last 10 years, they ain't even hit the board. Which is the principle, I mean, testing. Via the testing, they're that pathetic. They're a fucking joke. Wattis school business. Wattis, who built the freaking reactors at Fukushima. The Wattis school. I graduated from them both. The Wattis art school and the Wattis. I graduated from both. I got kicked out of the Wattis art school, but walked right over to the Wattis school of business. The #1 undergraduate school in the country when they've stripped my PhD. I burned my PhD. They took my MBA, all of it, because of my anti-nuclearism, long before Fukushima happened. It's going to give you leukemia. Then I got leukemia. Where's the statue, you scumbags? I'm going to hammer at this. I should have done this a long time ago, because I did all my work the same place. From the landscape to the library was said about Edward Abbey. He worked on his master's thesis for 30 years, never finished it. I know where he's buried, by the way. I know right where he's buried, in the Sonora. I stoked the Sonora National Park building. That's my work in Tucson. That's me with a hawk and trowel. Cancer fucking took everything from me. I have the last letter of recommendation from the legendary Clyde Cooley, who died of mad cow, who lived in Bountiful right as we got our MBA program. He died of mad cow. Stair cycle, Romney, right there in Bountiful. Burns stair cycle, burns it right in. There's an autistic school built right there. I was diagnosed as so-called autistic when I was young. I remember I had a history professor. That guy, Tracy Hall, the guy who invented the synthetic diamond. His brother was my 8th grade history teacher at Walkus Junior High. He said one day, he says, I got you figured out. What do you mean? He says, you're a slacker. No, I'm not. Well, I'm a hard worker. I work on that farm ranch every day. I can already plaster. He says, no. He says, you get the class high in the test and you don't ever even come to class. Yeah. Huh. How's that? I was a BS honor student for a while. It's amazing. It's all about the literature. Literature doesn't change around the fringes in the end. It's at the core. Where's her statue? Everything she said has been proven right to a T. Jefferson's biography is an absolute masterpiece. She told Brodie at the University of Chicago, don't you think it's honoring? She goes to the University of Chicago where the nuclear was born, and then it comes to this capitulation. Kevin Blanch, this is literature. My 33, it's a book. It's a book. It's a book. Intimacy? Oh, it has to be. Rejection? Has to be. You hypothesize your work, you do your work, walk the sea full of leukemia, you know, all this historic work, then you defend your work. It's literature. It's literature. It's literature. And it is the core. The nuclear core is melted down at Fukushima. Stay tuned.